So in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how to organize your week so you can get strong, fast, jacked, and conditioned without breaking you down. Most people think sprinting, jumping, and lifting heavy are what breaks you down, that they're inherently dangerous. And to be honest with you, I'd agree, but with one little caveat. The fact that they are dangerous is what makes them so valuable. If I wanted to be harmless, I'd go to Pilates. With that said, the exercises you choose aren't the problem. It's trying to develop too many qualities at once, leading you to do too much, too soon, and too often. It's like having the drums, piano, and a guitar, and instead of playing a song, you just start hitting everything at once. You have everything you need, but the lack of structure just leads to noise. That's exactly what your training looks like right now. You're doing everything you should be doing. We just need to put more thought into how often, how much, and how hard. So step one is to determine what qualities get developed and what gets maintained, because it takes a lot more work to develop a quality than it does to maintain it. We can learn to stop treating everything like it needs max effort and instead push what you want to improve and maintain what you don't want to lose. Now, to actually do this, you got to ask yourself two questions. Number one is choose the three qualities that are most important to you: strength, speed and power, hypertrophy, conditioning, or flexibility and mobility. Number two is now list those qualities in order of most to least important. That order now guides all of your decision making. Number one gets pushed with more time, effort, volume, and frequency. And number two gets worked, but not at the expense of number one. And number three kind of depends. Developed if you have the time, maintained if you don't. Now everything else, it still matters, it just doesn't get to drive the program right now. This brings us to step two, where almost everyone screws this up. They treat every quality like it needs to be trained all the time. So they keep writing checks their body can't cash. The way I think about this is like running a business. There's always more I could be doing. I could work more, I could build more, I could push more. But if I do that at the expense of my relationships, my energy, my recovery, there's just a cost to be paid. So instead, I do as much as I need to either grow my business or maintain it. Training works the same way. You don't train everything all the time. You train it just enough to build it or keep it, while leaving enough in the tank for everything else. Now remember, you already know what you want to build and maintain, so before you decide how often to train it, you need to ask how quickly you lose it when you stop training it. A big reason you feel beat up all the time is training something too frequently when it only needs to be maintained. You end up too fatigued or sore to train hard when it matters, which reduces progress to a snail's pace. Think of frequency like visiting your in-laws. You do it enough to keep the peace, but not so often it starts replacing your Sunday mornings drinking coffee in bed. This table here is going to help us decide how often to train something. It's called the residual training effect, and it provides guidance on how long different qualities stick after you stop training it. We're going to simplify this. We just don't need all that. What you'll see here is speed should be trained most frequently, followed by power, hypertrophy, high intensity fitness, strength, and aerobic fitness. To make this even easier to apply, I've designed this table to easily choose how frequently you should train a quality based on your goal. Stick to this and you'll be good. We now know what qualities you're developing and maintaining, how frequently you're going to train them. Now we need to decide how long you have to train. This is typically where people really miss the forest for the trees and end up constantly tired, sore, and in pain. Mostly because they get so focused on training like an athlete, they forget to recover like one. They follow frameworks like this without asking whether their life allows for the recovery required to train like this. Look at this schedule. Your shortest session is 1.5 hours. This works if training is your job, or you're rich and can afford to F off all the time. But for you, that 2-hour session turns into 60 rushed minutes, and by the time Thursday rolls around, you're sore, you're tired, and you're really just surviving. You end up just stacking fatigue, and instead of getting stronger, faster, and more conditioned, you just get better at training while tired. The way I like to think about it is it's not a matter of if you can do it, but can you recover from it? Don't just ask how long you have to train, ask if your life actually supports the recovery required. If the gut reaction is no, then adjust, because being tired isn't the goal, being better is. Okay, so we've got our training priorities, our frequency, and our workout duration. Now we decide the split. And this is where most people run into problems because your program isn't missing anything. It just doesn't know how to manage fatigue. Let's say you sprint and lift on Monday and then hit a tempo workout on Tuesday. It makes sense on paper. You got different days and different focus. But you've got another sprint day on Wednesday, and here's the problem. Your legs just aren't recovered. So instead of being a speed day, it's just another day getting better at moving slow. That's what happens when you treat all fatigue the same, because not all fatigue is the same. Some is more neural, like jumping, sprinting, and lifting heavy, and some is more muscular, like training for hypertrophy. And they don't recover equally. Now, let's add in your reality. A professional athlete might handle that schedule just fine, but you've got work, stress, and really a finite ability to recover. So that same Tuesday tempo run might need to be a bike, the rower, or ski erg instead. Less tissue stress, but same intent. And now you're actually set up to perform on Wednesday. This is the idea behind the high-low method. You make the easy days easy so the hard days can be hard. At this point, the hard stuff is mostly out of the way. You've got your priorities, frequency, duration, and split. Now we have to choose our methods. Methods can be anything from how you prescribe loading, such as using velocity-based training, a heart rate monitor, or RPE. It can be how you manipulate loading, such as bands or chains, and it can even be how you analyze or gamify training by using timing gates or force plates. But the danger here is applying advanced methods too early and mistaking more precise for more effective. We have to understand that precision has a cost in terms of time, equipment, and setup, so we gotta be careful. A simple way to think about the method you choose is what it gives you compared to what it costs. Think of it like this: a business where the goal is to maximize profits and minimize costs. In this case, profits are increased speed, strength, and power, while costs are things like time, skill, and equipment. What drives adaptation is going to change over time, so we can use this framework to guide our decisions. Instead of asking ourselves what's effective, we ask the more appropriate question, which is what actually works for you right here and right now. This makes zone 1 your Goldilocks zone. You not only get a high ROI, but the methods are repeatable, simple, and effective. This looks like sled sprints as a percentage of your body weight, dumbbells and machines for strength, and conditioning based on how you feel versus a heart rate monitor. Think about it like this: if it works and it's easy to execute, keep it. Zone 2 is the shiny object trying to distract you. Now, most people make this their default zone and they waste precious time with these crazy setups or this complex data trapping, which just eats up time that could be better spent actually training. We only go here if the added precision meaningfully improves whatever it is we're training for. Resisted sprint training as a percentage of velocity drop-off is cool, but requires more equipment and calculations. So if 60 minutes to train is all you have, the more minutes we can spend actually training, the better. Because optimal isn't optimal if it isn't practical. Whenever I'm deciding on a method to use for either myself or a client, I like to ask myself 3 questions. 1, does it effectively target the outcome? 2, can it be executed consistently? And 3, do you have the time, skills, and resources? If the answer is no to any of those, just choose a different method. As the old adage goes, perfect is the enemy of good enough, and good training knows how to prioritize progress over perfection. At this point, we've got the general outline of our program down. We know what to prioritize, how many days we're training, how long we're training for, our split, and the methods we'll be using. Now, we get to pick the fun stuff, the exercises. If you watched the video prior to this, you know the exercise isn't the goal, the stimulus is. We start running into problems when we get overly attached to exercises. For example, let's say your goal is to build lower body strength. Most people will go straight to back squats and deadlifts because they are genuinely great exercises. But now you're in a commercial gym, 6 p.m., you're looking for an open squat rack, and all you're finding is just disappointment. So you wait, maybe you scroll, maybe you go to the next exercise, or maybe you're just a sucker for perfection and you waste 20 minutes waiting just to do that one exercise. Meanwhile, you could have just done any other lower pushing exercise for the same sets, reps, and intent, achieving nearly the same exact stimulus you were after. Same goal, same adaptation, just a different exercise. That's the point. We do not program for exercises, we program for adaptations. So when you're choosing your exercises, program the adaptation first. You can be super general, like heavy lower push or powerful upper pull. Or you can be more specific, like heavy bilateral squat or powerful single leg hinge. It's really just dependent on how specific you need to be based on your priorities. For example, if I have a client who's strong enough, maybe they back squat twice their body weight and barbell deadlift even more, they don't need a stronger back squat or a barbell deadlift. And assuming strength isn't a priority and we're just looking to maintain it while we address other qualities like speed and power, we can just take a very general approach. This is where I like to program something like a bilateral squat of choice and just encourage my client to choose a different variation each week. Now, if I have someone who needs to get stronger, I will program the adaptation followed by a specific exercise like our barbell back squat, but I always like to provide a few alternative squat variations just in case we need it. When it comes down to it, if we can learn to program for adaptations instead of exercises, we stop chasing movements and start chasing outcomes. That way, progress can stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Up to this point, we've decided what matters, when to train it, and how to organize it. At this point, all that's left to do is prescribe your volume. I'm talking your sets, your reps, rounds, distance, time, things like that. Now, you might be thinking, cool, now I just need to do a lot of it. And all that's going to do is lead you right back to aches, pains, fatigue, and plateaus. The problem with this approach is always defaulting to more instead of enough. It's kind of like drinking after your 20s. A couple drinks, things are good. But when a couple turns into just a few more and just a few more turns into 8 or 12, you gotta ask yourself if it was really worth it when you're waking up with a pounding headache. Remember, as much as we need, not as much as we can. You're probably asking yourself, okay, well, what is enough? To answer that, we ask ourselves two questions. Am I developing a quality or am I maintaining it? And how frequently am I training it? For example, in this study from 2011, they found that for younger adults, 1/9 of their previous volume was enough to maintain strength and hypertrophy. In fact, 1/3 even led to slight increases in muscle mass. To put this into context, if you were doing 9 sets of back squats on average a week, 3 sets a week would sustain progress, while just 1 would be enough to maintain everything you built, at least theoretically. The take-home message here being the dose required to build something is higher than the dose required to keep it. And all that time, effort, and volume you get back from just doing 1 or 3 sets can now be allocated towards the fun stuff and the stuff that's a higher priority. Now, I still haven't given you exact guidelines, which is admittedly what I know you want. So I'm gonna make recommendations based on what the research says and my own practical experience. If your goal is strength, 6 to 9 sets a day, 2 to 4 days a week is a pretty good starting point. For me, a day might look like squatting, rowing, and pushing for 3 sets of 4 to 8 reps each. Most of my clients do train 3 days a week, so we'll generally aim for like a lower body strength exercise and 2 upper body exercises, assuming we're doing this following sprinting and or jumping. If your goal is speed, 50 to 100 yards a day of max effort sprinting 2 to 3 days a week is my general recommendation. You will typically find recommendations for acceleration being much higher. I'm talking up to 200 yards, but those guidelines are geared towards people with 2 hours to train and no other concerns besides being the best athlete they can possibly be. They've also usually been sprinting consistently for years. Now, if your goal is power, I find 20 to 30 total max effort jumps a week is a pretty good sweet spot. If your goal is hypertrophy, 10 to 20 sets a week is the general recommendation. If the goal is general conditioning, 15 to 45 minutes a day, 2 to 4 days a week, depending on the intensity, will really move the needle. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. As a younger coach, I found these very broad recommendations really valuable because they help to simplify things, which is why I included them. But part of being a coach who works one-on-one with people is individualizing the volume to the person. So understand that these recommendations are rules, but I always maintain the right to break my rules, but not my principles. The volume I prescribe is thought of in the context of what someone has been doing prior to working with me, how long they've been training, and how they respond via things like soreness, pain, motivation, and HRV. So all that said, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'll be doing a masterclass on each element we jammed on today. At the end of the day, it's not about building the perfect program. It's about building a program that works for your life. When you know what to prioritize, how often to train it, how much to do, and how to organize it, you start actually recovering, which allows you to train hard when it really matters. And progress picks back up without all the aches and the pains and the fatigue you've become used to. But here's the problem. Even if you structure everything perfectly, there's no guarantee that what worked today is going to work tomorrow. Your body adapts, and what got you from A to B won't get you from B to C. So in the next video, I'll show you exactly how to monitor and progress your training, so you know when to push, when to pull back, and when to change things up. Because a good program gets you started, but a great program knows when and how to adjust to sustain progress for months and years to come. So make sure you hit that subscribe button because this is a video you won't want to miss.